I grew up in East Texas, and that's the kind of place that when you're from there, no one has to ask if you're from there, right? They can hear it. There's a distinct accent, an East Texas twang, but there's also a pace. We talk slowly, like Matthew McConaughey slow. But then when I was in high school, some of the debate tournaments I competed in used this style of speaking called rapid fire, where you had to talk as fast as you possibly could to get in more arguments and evidence than the other guy. But there's a risk to rapid fire, right? You might go so fast that the judge doesn't hear your argument or can't make out what you're saying. And so it's this odd thing, right? You have to speak quickly, but speaking too quickly might be your downfall. And so it is in life too. Let's hear again our theme verse, Psalm 19:14. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. This is a series about putting that into practice, and one part of that has to be our pace. For our words to be acceptable in God's sight, we may just have to slow them down a bit. James talks about exactly this. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I feel like I should pause after reading that, right? Let's think about these three ideas. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And specifically, let's think about how they're logically connected. When the Bible speaks about our speech, maybe its top concern about our words is the risk of anger. Angry words turn into angry deeds, right? Things escalate. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Again, that may be the main instruction the Bible has for our speech, that we're to lean into gentleness. And over again, it talks about that. And one funny way it does is it compares good words, good talk to food over and over again. Proverbs 16, gracious words are like honeycomb. Proverbs 25, good words are like apples of gold in settings of silver. I mean, how oddly specific can you get? And Psalm 15 says that a gentle tongue is like a whole tree of life. And what all these food metaphors are about is how gentle, gracious words, that's what we want in our mouth. On the other hand, words that are too harsh, too salty, those make us sick. We don't want those in our mouth. James continues. He says, take ships as an example. Although they are so large and they are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. And likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. And consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body. It sets the whole course of one's life on fire and is itself set on fire by hell. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. Whoa. We talked about how our speech is the aspect of our discipleship that might be the easiest to overlook, to ignore. But James says, don't underestimate it. The tongue may be small, but it can also be the spark that starts the fire. It can be the rudder that steers the ship. It can be the wild animal that refuses to be tamed. It can be the poison that gets into your whole system. So how do we improve the odds? How do we steer toward gentleness in angry seas? You may know the name Daniel Kahneman. He wrote this huge and influential book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And he says basically that we're all of two minds. One that's really fast and runs on instinct. Like if a ball is coming toward your head, you don't have to think. You just duck or move out of the way. But system one, so it's really helpful, but it can also be way too fast. It gets really emotional. It's overly confident. It's swayed by bad evidence. And so we also have a slower mind too, that's always humming in the background and helping us really think things through and make better decisions. And it does help us make better decisions if we give it time. And that's why, like we talked about last time, it's so important to think again and exchange our thoughts and not always go with the first instinct that we have. Well, I wonder if we could also talk about talking fast and slow, right? It maybe the same thing is true, that we're better when we think slow and talk slow, right? Talking fast, we're more likely to say something in the heat of the moment that we're later going to regret. Maybe rapid fire is the right term after all, right? Rapid speech is a sure way to start a fire. It's the spark. Or you're going to love and hate this joke. Maybe the movie's got it right. What if the fast really are the furious? Talking slow might seem a little less interesting, a little more boring or vanilla, but you sure can enjoy forests and friendships more when they're not on fire. Slow to speak, slow to anger. There's a connection there, right? Talking slower is probably the number one thing we could focus on to make our words acceptable in God's sight, to make them gentle and not furious, to avoid starting a fire. Psalm 141 has this cool image. It says, "Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips." I mean, what a cool image, right? What's a guard? A guard over my mouth. What's a guard? Well, it's like a bouncer, right? Someone who checks you at the door, like checks your words as they're flying out of your mouth, flying off your tongue. Like, hey, you sure you want to say that? Slow down, buddy. When we do that, when we slow our words, we can check the anger. Take a second before you send that text. Take a second before you make that cutting remark. Pretend that there's a guard at the door of your mouth who hasn't given the all clear yet. Our words, they have the power of life and death. So choose life, right? Choose gentleness, choose graciousness. Now, the other connection worth thinking about is that when we slow our words, we really can be quick to listen. Much of the time, even when we're silent, we're not really listening, are we? We're waiting to speak again. Now, that's not the same. But how much more will our words help others if we're really listening? I mean, you know those friends who never rush you, whose presence just signals like, hey, no rush, take your time. We love those people. And what I want you to know is, like, you can be those people. Fast and furious, rapid fire, that isn't the only option. Slow it down. Hey, just pretend you're from East Texas.